So you might be wondering when to sell your KASPA. In this video, I'm going to be talking about my approach, some things to look out for, and I'll also have a couple of pretty juicy nuggets of information. Stick around to the end of this video and you might just have your answer. Hello, and welcome to What is Crypto? I'm Matt and this is Crypto. Today I'm going to be talking to you about KASPA, ticker signal KAS. But firstly, a little bit about my channel. Here I give to the point crypto information and education and talk all things crypto. I like to keep things short and sweet, as time is money and money is more coins and tokens to fill up those bags. So if that sounds like it could be for you, then smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment down below, and let's get into it. So we've got our conviction in KASPA, we know what we've got, we are super bullish on it long term, but what's the point of holding a crypto if you're not ever going to take any profits on it? But also you're thinking, I don't want to take profits too early, as that's really going to chop into my overall gains. So whenabouts exactly should you sell your KASPA? Well, the answer is different for everyone. It's never a horrible time to sell if you're in a decent amount of profits, and that money could be potentially life-changing for you. So taking profits on the way up, just shaving a little bit off the top or taking out your initials is a great way to make sure that you trade overall fairly safely. But when should you be selling most of your KASPA? Well, how I'm doing it, and I think this is a pretty decent way to at least formulate your own strategy, is looking at Bitcoin. It's looking at the halving cycle and it's looking at multiple different metrics to try and predict where Bitcoin will top this cycle. And although you're never going to time the top perfectly, if you can get a 6 month or so period where the market is likely going to top out and then DCA out over that period, you're really going to do pretty well. So what metrics am I using to try and time my KASPA sales off Bitcoin? And a few of the metrics that I look at are how many days after the halving did the cycle top? So in the 2012 cycle, it was 364 days. In the 2016 cycle, it was 518 days. And in the 2020 cycle, it was 546 days. I've also got a note in there though, that in the 2020/2021 cycle, the Pi cycle top indicator did flash at the 336 day mark. And that was this initial top that you saw. This also would have been a really good time to sell. And personally, if I had have sold there and avoided all this stress of the downturn and missed out on maybe a 5% gain to the upside, well, hey, I would be pretty happy with that trade-off. So looking at that first metric between 365 days or 364 days and 546 days post-halving to the cycle top, that puts us between April in 2025 and the October-November period in 2025. Now, October-November is one of the most common predictions for when we will top. However, we have been moving a little bit earlier, so I'm a bit hesitant to wait until that October-November period myself, and I'll be starting to DCA out a bit earlier. Looking at the gains from the past halving, you can also see that in the 2012, we had 9,337% gains, 2026, 2017, 2,973% gains, and 2020 to 2021, we had a 731% gain from the halving to the cycle top. Now, looking at the diminishing returns that you're seeing cycle on cycle, you could estimate that you might be seeing a 150 to 300% gain this halving, which could put you around that 95 to 200k Bitcoin. Now, it's a pretty wide range. I personally won't be selling at the 95k mark unless we are well into 2025 and it's not looking like we have that much more upside, which I think is quite unlikely. I've also wrote down there that if we do have a super cycle, as some people are predicting, then the estimates could be pushed up much higher, up to around that 400k mark. Also, another good indicator is the Pi cycle top. Now, the Pi cycle top indicator was programmed off the 2012 and 2016 tops, and it was used to estimate in the 2020/2021 cycle, when would the top be? Now, the Pi cycle top called this first top within 3 days. So I think that's something that you definitely need to keep on your radar. And even if that wasn't going to be the top of the cycle, it might also be a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. People see the Pi cycle top, they know how accurate it's been in the past, people start selling, which leads to more people selling, which leads to the price dumping, which leads to people concluding that the top is in and therefore it's a bit of a snowball effect. What we have seen in past cycles is that once the top is in and the price starts to snowball down, it's a pretty aggressive slide from the top down. Now, I've also got a couple of other notes in here that aren't necessarily timing the top, that it's not uncommon from between 5 to 22 weeks after the halving for the price action not to be hugely positive or for not a huge amount to occur. Not saying that's what's going to happen this time, but in the past, it has always taken quite some time after the halving. Also, a few other things. I was looking at a trader who charted the Fibonacci sequences to predict the top of this cycle, and the two levels that came out from that were around the $100,000 mark and the $156,000 mark. So two other levels to kind of put in to time your KASPA exit. Looking also at the stock to flow model, which if you're not familiar, look at Plan B, one of the most famous traders, and he has used this model to correctly predict the price of Bitcoin over a hugely long period of time. So his model actually predicts a $532,000 Bitcoin. Now, this is hugely bullish, and the majority of the market doesn't agree that this is going to happen. However, Plan B has been right in the past, and this model has been pretty accurate previously. So another level to look out for, although I think you probably shouldn't be waiting until you see this mark, as there's a good chance that we don't hit it. All right, so what does all this tell me about when to sell my KASPA? Well, I'm looking at all of these metrics. I'm looking at the Fibonacci levels. I'm also looking at the total price movement of Bitcoin after the halving, and I'm also looking at the amount of days post-halving till the cycle top. A few other ways to check of where we are in the cycle is to look at the fear and greed index, with extreme greed and market euphoria quite often indicating that we might be getting towards peak froth. Another good thing to follow on Twitter is there's also a bot that tracks the Coinbase ranking. So when Coinbase has been ranking very highly in the top 5 to 10, it's quite often been an indicator that we are near the top of a cycle as well. So just a few things to keep an eye out for, but really the crux of the story is that KASPA will be highly correlated to Bitcoin, and you should probably time your KASPA exits according to where Bitcoin is. I think looking at a bunch of overall metrics about where the market is and trying to figure out exactly where you are in the cycle is a better way to time your exit, as opposed to picking an arbitrary number, hoping you get there, selling if you do, and holding right down to the bottom if you don't. Now, I also think it could be a decent idea to keep a little moon bag of KASPA. A few people have talked about this, but I really like the idea of having a cold storage such as a Tangem and having an amount of your KASPA that you just don't touch. I like this idea a lot because you hear so many stories about people who bought Bitcoin really, really low, and although they did really well, if they had have just held on to that Bitcoin for a long period of time, they would have significantly outperformed their trades. Now, I'm not saying that KASPA is going to go to where Bitcoin went, although I do think that KASPA has a pretty awesome use case, and I do think KASPA has a really bright future. So I like the idea of keeping a small amount, maybe 10% of your portfolio on a cold storage wallet and holding it right through the bear market. But I do think you probably should take profits on most of your KASPA, and I will personally be selling between 70 and 90% of my KASPA sometime at this stage between January and November in 2025. That's not me telling you what to do with your KASPA. That's me telling you what I'm going to be doing with my KASPA. I do love KASPA, and I think it's got a hugely bright future. I do also note that the crypto cycles are brutal, and if you hold on for too long, you end up seeing these horrific red periods of time where Bitcoin crashes 84% and altcoins crash 95%. I don't want that to happen to my bags, which have been growing beautifully in the bull run, and I suspect that you don't want that to happen to your bags either. So I think taking profits on the way up is never a bad idea, but having some metrics on when you're going to time your exit is also pretty important. I don't think focusing on one specific number is probably the best way to go about it. Although I do think KASPA is getting between that $1 and $5 mark, probably between the $2 to $4 mark. Personally though, I'll be DCAing out based on a few metrics which I'm continuing to build up. I'm looking at adding some more, but I thought, you know what? While I'm playing around with this, I might make a little bit of a video just to give you guys an idea where my head's at. Awesome. Thank you so much, legends. I really do appreciate you watching through to the end. Drop a comment down below to let me know if you did make it through to the end. It was a bit of a longer one today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Drop a comment down below. Cheers, legends. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Catch you in the next one.